May 6, 2004, Friends airs its final episode, and 52.5 million Americans watch it live. Then the show ends, except it never really ended. More than 2 decades later, Friends still generates about $1 billion a year for Warner Brothers. Not a billion lifetime, a billion per year, for a sitcom that stopped making episodes before the iPhone existed. Today we follow that money. Here's what most people get wrong about television. We treat reruns as filler, the cheap stuff channels play between shows that actually matter. The industry knows better, reruns are the business. A hit sitcom is a factory that keeps shipping product for decades after the doors close, and nothing proves it like Friends, a show whose reruns triggered one of the most expensive bidding wars in streaming history. To understand how a finished show out-earns new blockbusters, you have to follow 3 sets of checks: the casts, the studios, and the streamers. And by the end, you'll see the twist. Because the machine that built this fortune is the same machine streaming quietly dismantled. Start with the cast because their contract explains everything about how valuable this show really is. In season 1, each of the 6 leads earned $22,500 per episode. Decent money, nothing historic, but from season 3, the 6 negotiated as a single block, all of them together or none of them at all. It was a negotiating tactic television had rarely seen at that scale. No single lead could be replaced or squeezed because the show only worked as a set of 6. Every race became 6 races. By the final 2 seasons, every one of them was making $1 million per episode. That number made headlines around the world, and it still wasn't the smart part of the deal. The smart part came in the year 2000, when the cast negotiated something television actors almost never got: backend points. 2% of the show's syndication income each, a cut previously reserved for creators and producers. Think about what that means. The salary stopped in 2004, the 2% never did. That slice reportedly works out to around $20 million per year, per actor, for work they finished more than 20 years ago. When the people inside the deal fight for a percentage instead of a paycheck, they're telling you what the asset is really worth. 6 salaries stopped in 2004, 6 annuities started. Now zoom out to the studio's checks, because if 2% is 20 million, think about what the full 100% looks like. Syndication was broadcast television's greatest invention. Produce a show once, then sell the rerun rights to stations, again and again, market by market, year after year. Warner Brothers sold Friends reruns for roughly $4 million per episode. The show has 236 episodes. That first syndication run alone brought in close to $1 billion, before streaming was even a word. And here's the beautiful part of that model. From the studio's side, the production costs were already paid. The sets were struck, the crew had moved on. Rerun revenue is close to pure margin, fresh money for a product that already exists. And the audience never drifted away. In 2016, 12 years after the finale, Friends reruns were still pulling around 16 million viewers a week in the US. And that's excluding streaming entirely. 16 million a week is a number a brand new network show would kill for. Friends was doing it in its second decade of reruns. Then streaming arrived, and the price of an old sitcom went vertical. In 2015, Netflix bought exclusive streaming rights to all 236 episodes for $120 million over 4 years. Call it $30 million a year. At the time, that sounded expensive for a decade-old sitcom. It turned out to be a bargain. Friends became one of the most watched titles on the platform, and when the deal came up for renewal, Netflix paid reportedly around $100 million for 1 additional year. That's triple the old annual price for the same 236 episodes. Sit with that for a second. A full blockbuster movie budget spent on the right to keep showing episodes everyone had already seen. Why would anyone pay that? Because a rival was at the door. Warner's parent company was building its own streaming service, and it wanted its crown jewel back home. In 2019, the new HBO Max closed the deal, $425 million for 5 years of exclusivity. $85 million a year for a show that wrapped in 2004. No explosions, no cliffhangers, no season 2 to greenlight, just 6 people on a couch and the most reliable audience in television. And that audience keeps replacing itself. Nielsen measured 25 billion minutes of Friends streamed in 2023 alone, 19 years after the finale. 25 billion minutes for a show whose youngest fans weren't born when it ended. Run the math against its 236 episodes, and that's millions of complete start-to-finish runs of the entire series. In a single year, most new shows spike, trend for a month, and vanish. Friends just it continues. That's the difference between content and a library asset. So why Friends? Three structural reasons. First, the format. 236 self-contained episodes. Start anywhere, stop anywhere, no homework required. A serialized drama demands you begin at episode 1. A sitcom meets you wherever you land. That's perfect rerun material, and it's exactly what comfort viewing on streaming looks like. Second, the deal structure. Because the cast owns 2% and Warner owns the rest, every party with leverage benefits from keeping the show everywhere forever. Nobody's incentive is to retire it. But here's the irony hiding in this story. The part of the goldmine streaming actually killed. The old model was dozens of stations, each paying for the same episodes over and over. Streaming replaced all those buyers with a single exclusive bidder. The headline numbers got bigger, but the checks got fewer, and everything now rides on one renewal negotiation every few years. The gold mine didn't close, it consolidated. That's also why the cast's 2% aged so well. They're not paid per airing, they're paid on the income stream itself, however it's delivered. Broadcast cable streaming. The pipe changed 3 times, and the percentage never cared. So watch what happens each time a big library deal expires. The $1 billion-a-year figure tells you the library is the moat. New shows chase subscribers, but old shows are what keep them from leaving. Every streamer that writes a 9-figure check for a 20-year-old sitcom is admitting the same quiet truth. The most valuable thing in streaming isn't new at all. The show ran 10 seasons. The rerun era has already lasted more than twice that, and there is no sign the checks stop. If you want more stories about the business behind what you watch, the deals, the numbers, the wars, subscribe. There's a new one every week.